looking forward to hearing that sound effect in post.
I'll get that good.
Let's blow out this microphone. Bum bum bum.
All right. What time do you want to do a clap?
I don't know about you. I could use like 2 minutes, like 7:35.
All right, I'm down.
Get a couple vape smackers.
Vaperoonies.
Couple some nose clams and some vaperoonies. Couple smicky smacks. Good.
Yep, same here. Wet my whistle.
These whistles are dry. We only use wet whistles over here.
Why are all these whistles so wet? Oh, God damn it.
Now we need a whistle sponsor. Wet whistles.
Wet Willie's
whistles.
This episode's brought to you by Wet Willie's Whistles. You'll never have a dry whistle again when you use Wet Willie's. Welcome to the Trash Cats Trash Cast, home of Ricky and Steven.
Yo, that worked. That's a first take.
There we go. Nailed it.
We did it.
Got it in one.
6 episodes.
I mean, I kind of ran through the rest of it, and I didn't let you say your own name, but, you know.
It works?
It still works.
Yeah, man. How was your week?
It was actually, it was pretty chill. It was a slow week at the restaurant, you know, with the holiday season and all that jazz, but it's been very relaxing. So, not complaining about it. How about you?
Pretty chill. I feel like everything's slow right now. Like, content's slow. People are working a lot less. Everything's just kind of winter slow mode. And
just time in general.
Yeah, going slow through time. Slowly ending the year. But I had a pretty chill week. I'm off school for a little bit, so it's been nice.
Now, do you think the relationship between the time that we're experiencing might be because that we live in a simulation?
I think that is very probable.
So today we're going to be talking about simulation theory, or rather simulation hypothesis.
Yes, this is exciting.
It's definitely been a lot of fun to do research for. Yeah. But first, do you have any honorable mentions?
Yes. First honorable mention, this music video shared with you earlier by Jesper Ryan. The song is called Nights. The description is a whimsical journey through childhood memories, which I don't feel like describes it very well, but it's a super chill electronic track, kind of lo-fi-ish, but the art is kind of like a mix of midnight gospel and like Studio Ghibli. You had that great comparison earlier.
It's super colorful and bouncy and really chill. I really liked it a lot.
Good abstract vibes.
Even the music, that's not usually the type of music I listen to, but it's like you said, definitely extremely chill and was a fun listen, especially with the video in the back.
Yeah, that's like, I don't listen to like chill wave or electronic kind of stuff that often, but it's such good background music, and the art for this really was unique. The director of it had previously done a Taiko music video. If anybody's familiar with Taiko, awesome chill music. So it was just a fun one. I got one more. Do you got any? Or should I go in?
I super don't. I'm really bad at bringing those to.
I like doing them. They're fun for me. So second one is an old painting. It's called Scene of the Great Flood, or it has the alternate title of The Great Flood. Have you had a chance to open that one?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Cool. It is a painting of Noah's flood by Joseph Desiree Court, probably saying his name wrong. It's from 1826. It was first exhibited at the Paris Salon on the 4th of November of 1827, and it is, it was first purchased for 3,000 francs, but it is currently in the Museum of Fine Arts of Lyon. I love this painting, man.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's
so brutal.
Yeah, and it such the color scheme it's all heavily warm colors, but you can see especially in flesh tones and in some of the rock there that some of the cooler shades coming through that I think is it's fun to when you know that about how color theory stuff works. It's fun to see people actually doing it.
Yeah,
right.
I love these old classical pieces that are like this metal. So like
right,
this piece I just used it in my own digital work because I was so inspired by it, because this painting is like heavy. It's the man leaning off the rocks pulling people out of the water, and the mother is holding a dead baby out of the floodwaters, and it's just so metal.
And it's obvious this man was, he came to the rescue, the aid of these people, after just, he probably woke up to the sound of their screams, because he is fully nude.
Yeah.
For no otherwise explainable reason. Everyone else in the photo besides the child has clothes on. And so,
dude, this had me like rereading Genesis in the Bible. And I had forgotten that rainbows were a promise by God not to flood the earth and kill everyone again.
Really?
Yeah, so brutal. Because God was mad with his creations acting shitty, so he just drowned them all and then promised not to do it again and put a rainbow in the sky. And then Noah got drunk afterwards.
Well, I believe that. If he's on a boat for 40 days and 40 nights with a bunch of animals. If he's not getting drunk during that, what a waste.
And then I'll end with this quote in relation to the painting, but not from the original artist. God drowns everything that breathes air, from newborn babies to koala bears, all the creatures great and small. The Lord God drowned them all.
Damn right.
It's so brutal.
That's so fucked up. It's good though. I like that I learned today that the light, the color spectrum that exists within light didn't exist until after Noah's Ark times. So that's good to know.
An interesting thought.
Yeah, white light didn't exist before then. There was no Roy G. Biv.
It was all black and white.
Or rather, we didn't have an atmosphere. Yeah. The black and white rainbow.
Dude,
grayscale ass rainbow.
Fucking Noah's Ark weirdly is very simulation theory Truman-y. There's something about that.
No, continue.
I'm not sure what it is, but I don't know, the boat of Noah's Ark and Truman Show, rowing your boat to the edge of the world kind of thing. There's something simulation theory there. Well, hopefully we connect the dots.
Yeah, I'll wait for you to tell me like more about the story that I didn't know, and it's like there could definitely be a lot of that. No, but yeah, okay, I can see that. I mean, it definitely exists in some fictitious bullshit world. So there's that.
We got there. So today we are coming up with topics to discuss, and you had a story that we'll get into later about your own simulation theory experience.
Yeah, we'll save that for later on in the show here, but
that'll be fun. So that's kind of what initially inspired some of this, and we were both into like the Truman Show, the Matrix, that kind of weird, those theories.
Right. So first, do you want to tell us what simulation theory is?
Yeah. The simulation hypothesis, or simulation theory, is the proposal that all of reality, including the Earth and the rest of the universe, could in fact be an artificial simulation, such as a computer simulation. It is worth noting that most of these simulation hypotheses or theories developed and became popularized in the years following the release of the first Matrix movies. It is a mix of philosophical skepticism and science fiction. I think it's kind of got that sprinkle of creative delusion, and it's pretty fucking awesome, but I call bullshit on a lot of it. So I think it's a really fun thought experiment for us to explore and kind of see what parts of it have that could be true, or if it's all bullshit. I know I personally buy into nothing matters a lot easier than nothing is real. Kind of like simulation theory. People believe it's all just, we're in a computer program in an alien spaceship. And I don't know if I buy it, but I think it's fun.
Right. We've mentioned it on one of the other podcasts that I find comfort in believing, we're just, the equivalent of mold growing on, a pebble that's floating through a void, that, and nothing is, nothing holds much meaning besides what you assign to it. And, I like that theory, but the idea that none of it's real, there's definitely no comfort in it. If anything, I can see where that would draw people to be, I don't know, if it makes you think that the consequences of your actions aren't, don't hold weight, I guess.
And that's where like falling into a lot of like the delusion and like illness of some of these thoughts,
right,
can become apparent. There's a weird balance. It's like buying into a theory like simulation theories, choosing that reality is not what everyone else thinks it is, and just like totally separating yourself from collected consciousness. It's very interesting. Yeah.
Upon doing research for this, I ran across a line that said, reality is anything, reality is anything we can perceive using one or more of the five senses. And I think, when of course, when you put it in the perspective of trying to understand, the not just the meaning of life, but why it is and like how it is, and you're trying to, and you start to question, what is reality? And you start to say like, well, but if these things are fake, these things that I can touch and smell and hear and taste, if they're fake, then like what is reality? And that's, like you said, the cool thought experiment. I think it's definitely an interesting theory to consider, but it doesn't change anything.
No,
and unless we can prove it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm willing to have those thought experiments of trying to see if it feels provable or not. But in our research, what I was a little surprised about is a lot of the people that wrote about and developed these theories, I was very unimpressed with their writing about, like, they believe in this theory, they're promoting it, they're putting it out into the world, and in reading some of these papers, I was unimpressed. I thought they would have a little more strength to some of these arguments.
It's very Time Cube-esque.
Yeah.
Like you could actually argue that Time Cube, the guy had a lot more details. I mean, the details were a lot of malarkey bullshit, but
wait, I got Time Cube confused. Remind me. Is that the other theory?
No, Time Cube is a very specific thought process by a gentleman by the name of, I don't remember. I think it's Gary something. Oh,
did he make it into our research?
No, he did not. It's very separate from the simulation theory stuff. But It existed on the internet in the late 90s and became a huge topic for discussion among people that mostly were joking about it because it's just a man rambling out into the void about his theory of how every second that you live is actually 4 seconds and you only experience one of it because you're an idiot. And you are trained this way because of lizard people that, control our every move and thought. Dude. And it's a lot deeper than just simulation theory.
That's interesting. All right, this is kind of unrelated. I know next we have a plan, but I want you got me on lizard people.
Yeah, go ahead, go off on lizard people. Let's get there.
Do you? I can't remember this fucker's name, but what is the dude? I think it's Ike something. The guy that is a UFO dude that is a big proponent of the lizard people.
Oh, I wouldn't have any idea.
Okay, he started like David Icke, I think. Yeah, reptilian conspiracy theory, David Icke. This dude was super into ufology, science fiction shit, and he got it really into cult shit ish, like of UFO followers. Mm-hmm. And there's a very interesting debate because a lot, and it's not, I'm not necessarily saying him, but a lot of the lizard people thing is really like metaphors for anti-Semitic writing.
Yeah, I believe that.
And that, like, it's a way to...
I think I'd read that somewhere, too.
Have, like, a cover. And so there's, like, people that believe it's actual lizard people, and then some of the writers are like, why the fuck would you think that?
Right, exactly, yeah.
It's very interesting. Anyway, I'll let you kick it off with the homeboy, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
A quote from our everybody's favorite boy, the America's cosmologist, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He says, it's very likely the universe is a simulation. On an infinite timeline, some species somewhere will simulate the universe. And if the universe will be perfectly simulated at some point, then we have to examine the possibility that we live inside such a universe, which I think is very fairly stated. I do enjoy the theory of infinite timelines. Not so much that I completely subscribe to it, but I think it's one of my favorite theories on reality.
It like scrambles your brain. It can become so quickly complicated.
Right. But I think it's important that, he made the statement that it's, technically if infinite possibilities are true, then yeah, I mean, at that point, anything, but.
And that's why a lot of these people, such as Neil deGrasse Tyson and like Elon Musk, really believe simulation theory is possible or already exists because everything is possible, so it could exist, so it likely already has. It's like this weird, like chain of assumptions of like
right.
Possibilities that are like, yes, they're very possible, but you have to assume a lot of things for it to be true.
It's not even a if then, it's a if then and then maybe, but then also and probably.
Now I think you know this. So is string theory the idea that all possibilities exist for all matter? So do you know what I'm saying? Or is that the different one?
No, that is, I want to say that's right. So string theory is, of course, multiple dimensions, and the way that they interact. I don't know completely the differences between string theory and other multiple dimension theories. I know there's something that separates it, more than the others, but I know that a lot of people do subscribe to it. But there is within, I think it's the sixth dimension. Every possible beginning and end of everything exists within that.
Yeah. So I was listening to this earlier today, actually, a video of this astronaut speaking, and he basically was saying, like, look at your feet and the floor, and where you're currently standing, there is a hole in the floor, and you have fallen through it. And it's happening simultaneously because all matter with enough time is becoming anything else. And that those different, like, whether the theory calls it galaxies or timelines, because all the possibilities are happening at all times, just like anything is possible kind of bullshit. But it's like a way with, like, quantum physics to, like, I don't know, it feels like so interesting but, like, really fucking lame. And that's what I have, like, the split on things like the simulation theory. It's just, like, so fucking cool but, like, garbage.
Yeah, it's all, and this has been the largest, I guess, argument against, or the discrediting of simulation theory in particular is it's all speculation based. That's not it's not really a scientific in any real way. Then that isn't completely true of the multiple dimensions theories. There is some base to it. There are theories and formulas and stuff like that, but it's still largely speculation. So it's more of I look at more as if you're, for some people that have religion, that help them find a meaning of life, or a meaning to why we're here. It's the closest scientific theory or the idea and hypothesis that makes, can give someone, a feeling of like, okay, so at least an understanding, maybe not a meaning, but an understanding of what's going on. And it's, I don't think anyone should be in the camp of like, well, this is definitely real, because that's not how science works.
That's like, that gets like flat earthy. Like the people that have that kind of thought where they're like, it's not even a question, it is a flat earth. And it's like,
right. Well, that's the other thing is like the flat earth, I was thinking about that as a comparison to simulation theory at first. And I realized, no, like simulation theory is different, like, because it's speculation. So if you believe in it, if you, subscribe to this idea, then you can't really be proven wrong so much. So, but the flat earth people can and have, and
repeatedly.
Yeah. And then they still choose to believe this.
Yeah. It's weird though. Like, I feel like the simulation theory to me, because of like the similarities to like, delusion or paranoia from drugs, or like simulation theory reminds me more like, I get like a more sick vibe, whereas flat earth I get more of like, you're just really dumb vibe. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah.
And I think part of that, like you said, it's a paranoia part of the simulation theory. It's like part of the core piece of this theory is that you're being controlled, or you're being watched, or, your environment is, not as it seems to you because someone else has, synthesized it. So it's a lot more cause for alarm.
Yeah. And it's like, you're basically, if you truly believe in it, you're basically saying you're like Neo in the Matrix, that you're the one with your eyes open, everyone else is, they're the sheep, sleeping sheep, and I'm the one wide awake in the simulation. And that's there's a lot of ego involved. It's interesting.
That's, it plays into that, delusion.
Right.
Thing.
And it's not that it's that far fetched, but I
think like, as we're talking about it, it's an idea, and to consider it as an idea is one thing, to subscribe, fully to it is another. I would say even people that subscribe fully to string theory and, multiple dimensional theory kind of stuff like that, I think that's still crazy. It's not, nothing's proven. It's a
Right.
commonly accepted idea that like, oh, this has some feet to it. This explains some things, and it would, could make a lot of sense. But no one's saying that you should, put all your eggs in that basket.
Right. Or even if it is real, it doesn't mean it wouldn't be wild as fuck. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
It's still like would be some crazy trippy shit. And it's weird though, like the more like I have noticed the more I think about it or are discussing it and playing with the idea, the more it can feel plausible. Like I see how it can get very easy to get confused or lost in it. And I've had throughout my life, I've definitely had my own delusions I've got lost in. It just hasn't been this particular one, but I do see how it easily can draw you in, and so much of that is escapism, needing the world to be different or a different world to be in.
Right.
But I really like the idea, before we move on, that if it was real simulation theory, if all the people that were hardcore religious and they believed in God, if their God was really just their alien caretakers that they were in tone with or whatever.
It's like when they say like I asked and God answered. I prayed and he spoke to me, and it's like, no, he literally typed it out in the script, or he actually spoke to you.
The alien,
that was your alien creator. Yeah,
poked your brain in the goo vat, and your prayers were answered. So
your reptile overlords.
So we wanted to kind of get it going by talking about some of the origins. You want me to start?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so excuse me. The modern version of simulation theory was molded by this dude, Nick Bostrom. Mm-hmm. And I would like to note that I have said or spelled his name wrong at least 100 times.
Yep.
So he did this initially in 2001, shortly after the release of The Matrix. And we keep saying that because it is weird how big of a part this movie played in it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so weird. So Nick Bostrom is, I don't know if he currently is, but he was a faculty of philosophy at Oxford University, and he wrote this big paper in 2003 called "Are You Living in a Simulation?" which I feel like is pretty hammy, but in which he popularized some radical conclusions about simulation theory. So that's where a lot of this kind of started. The Matrix movie and a couple people writing papers that it could be plausible. Right?
I would like to point out that I think I heard this somewhere that at least 9 times out of 10, when you see an ad or an article for something and the headline is a question, typically they're not going to answer that question. They're just going to make you posit it. And,
I like that.
So, and I found it to be mostly true since hearing that.
Yeah,
but that's exactly what this paper would, I assume, it does, is it's like, this is a theory.
Yeah,
it's like, put this into your own life and postulate it.
It had like a bunch, so I'm going to trash his paper, but there were parts of it that were interesting. I like that he wrote the paper. I don't think he did it well. He had written multiple papers, but this was like the big one. And some of the things it included were like those abstract calculations that we had talked about at one point earlier, where it's like doom equals blah, 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 like a math formula. And
yeah,
some of it's real and some of it's hypothetical. And it's all assumption based. So I was very unimpressed by Bostrom's paper But many works of science fiction, as well as some forecasts by serious technologists and futurologists, predict that enormous amounts of computing power will be available in the future. Let us suppose for a moment that these predictions are correct. One thing that later generations might do with their superpowered computers is run detailed simulations of their forebears or of people like their forebears. Because their computers would be so powerful, they could run a great many such simulations. Suppose that these simulations are conscious, as they would be if the simulations were sufficiently fine-grained and if certain widely accepted position and philosophy of mind is correct. Then it could be the case that the vast majority of minds like ours do not belong to the original race, but rather to the people simulated by the advanced descendants of the original race.
Right.
So that was an excerpt from that paper.
Now, I do like that part of it, that thought that it's like if it's true, and we are a simulation, that the way that our minds work and the way our minds have adapted, it's not based on what they would be in, actual past. It's based on, a more primitive version of the people that made the simulation. Which, they may think completely different. They may be nothing like us, and I didn't consider that part until I read that, and I thought, oh yeah, of course, like how would they know?
Yeah.
How people think and feel and whatever. And
it's so cool. My favorite part of what he said is that if the simulations were sufficiently fine-grained, I really like how that's worded.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we're going to talk about more, is like, as technology gets so much more powerful so quickly, that, I mean, we can even see it in examples of like VR, Resident Evil 7 VR, whatever. It's advancing so fast that if we accepted the assumption that if we were able to compute enough power to generate enough details, that we could fool those five senses, that
right.
we could trick our mind. And one of the thoughts I liked a lot was somebody opposing his paper that said, regardless of how detailed it is, our mind could always perceive that it wasn't reality, that our animal instinct could read through the simulation.
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of fun.
But if your animal instinct is part of the simulation.
So, but then that begs the question, are our own brains part of the simulation? Are we actual programs? Like, are we Mr. Smith in the Matrix? Are we the Sims, where our brain isn't even ours and we're just a program being run? Or are our brains ours biologically being controlled with simulation?
And the thing that I didn't find anywhere was an answer to that, a solid answer to that question.
Yeah, they didn't even address.
There's a lot of different ideas within that, of course. That like, once again, it's all speculation. So it's, people can subscribe to the different ideas of it. It's like Christianity. You can have different ideas within the same concept, and it's still somehow considered the same thing.
It's all under the same umbrella of bullshit. So Bostrom essentially concludes that it is then possible to argue that if this were the case, we would be rational to think that we are likely among the simulated minds rather than among the original biological ones.
Right.
Very creepy.
Right.
Because everybody wants to think we're the original biological ones, but if everything is possible with enough time, it's more likely we would be the simulated minds.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah. That is that's the kind of the crux of it, where it's like, that's where it starts to make you think, like, if someone goes deep enough into this rabbit hole, I mean, it's a lot like, if we were able to prove that God didn't exist, so many people that hold, that hold strong belief in religions would, they would turn violent, and not, of course, not everybody, but there's so many people that would, become so enraged and, out of fear of, this is.
Do you think so? Really? I don't know.
I do, because I think, they've found this connection with, the world, or, with this higher power outside the world. And they're going to realize they've been tricked. And I feel like a lot of people would, react negatively, if not violently.
I think some would, but I feel like the vast majority of people would go full denial.
Yeah. I mean, I would put that on there. It might start as denial, but it's like people denying the outcome of the election. People are getting upset about that too.
Yeah, when enough people deny enough things long enough, it inevitably leads to a smaller portion of people acting violently.
So I think that it's similar in the way that if you get sucked into this hole of thinking that everything around you is fake and has been, created and synthesized for you, that when, like what do your actions matter anymore? And that's like in the same way that like, with religions, like a lot of it's based on like moral integrity. And so like you're not an asshole because if you're an asshole, you don't go to hell. But if there's no, punishment for your sins, then why bother not sinning? I think that's along the same lines with that. It leads to dangerous roads is all I mean.
Yeah, God, that's just like so parallel to, dude, what's the bad guy? One of the bad guys in the Matrix that betrays Neo, where he chooses to eat the steak. It's like Chaser.
Oh, I don't remember that at all.
That actor is always such a good villain because he's like feels so scummy, but he chooses to eat the steak and listen to harps and live in the mansion in the Matrix, opposed to waking up to suffering or whatever. Just the willingness to be ignorant, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. So Bostrom's paper and his theories kind of were outlined by certain rules and assumptions. Do you want to get into those?
Yeah, so he has what's called a trilemma. It's not
three problems.
There's three problems here.
Thanks, Bostrom.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. We didn't have these before, but now we do, and we have to look at them. So his trilemma argued that one of three unlikely seeming propositions is almost certainly true. So like one of the following must be true.
Now, I'll be honest, these got kind of confusing for me, so I'm glad you're breaking them down.
Yeah, the wording is... it's a little rough, but it's because there's a lot of things that are in reference to his writing. But if you'll humor me for a moment.
Quick, it reminds me of the laws of robotics. It has that vibe.
I thought you were going to say it reminds you of the Book of the Law.
It has that vibe also.
But also that.
Sorry, go ahead.
The first one is the fraction of human-level civilizations that will reach a post-human stage, that is, one capable of running high-fidelity ancestor simulations, is very close to zero. So that's one point. So a fraction of human civilizations that could potentially run a fully sanctioned ancestor simulation is very close to zero.
And we'll talk about the post-humans more later, too.
Right.
That idea.
The second one, the fraction of post-human civilizations that are interested in running simulations of their evolutionary history or variations thereof is very close to zero. So that's saying they may have the ability, but are they interested in doing it? The third one is the fraction of all people with our kind of experiences that are living in a simulation is very close to 1. So saying that...
that was his big mic drop moment.
Right. That was it. walk off stage, motherfucker.
Yeah.
The fraction of all people with our kind of experiences. I read that a few different ways, but what I think what he was trying to say was that like we are in a simulation. So like us as a society, what you're experiencing now, the fraction of all people with our kind of experiences that are living in a simulation is very close to I think what he was referencing is close to a post-human civilization that will not only have the ability to, but have the interest in running simulations.
Right.
So it's a complicated way of looking at it because I feel like there's kind of holes within that aren't specified, but the idea is that like even if we don't kill each other off before we have this technology,
Yeah.
What then do we do with this technology? Do we utilize it to make the world a better place, or to use that computational power to do anything else rather than this vain reality simulator? I'd say that, but The Sims is like the most popular game on PC, so
pretty fun shit. But dude, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Does it feel weird how caught up he is on this ancestor simulation bullshit?
Yeah, it's very specific.
Dude, it's weird, and this just might be me, but I don't like reading what was it? The words like original race, descendants, factions of people.
Yeah.
Something about that, like that, those are generally bad things to read in a paper, but something about how he's caught up on the ancestors, it just feels weird. It feels very race oriented somehow, or
I think by race he means more like the human race.
I agree. It just comes off very weird.
Right. That's at least that's the way that I read it, because especially if we're talking about post-human peoples, then it's not, they're so far beyond what we are capable of that they are no longer the same thing.
I just don't like, I don't know. I don't like the whole ancestor things. That when people get real caught up on ancestor shit, it like always weirds me out. I don't know.
Some weird Hitler shit.
Yeah, or like, why does he think as post-humans or as simulations or as simulations run by aliens, why is he so specific and caught up that we would be constantly be running ancestor simulations?
Yeah, it's like it'd be one thing if it was a simulation for any other purpose. Whether it was just to see if they could.
It's like one example of any number of reasons simulation theory could exist.
Or it even could be, I don't know. There's a very few reasons I can think of why, it would become not only, an interest of, but like worth investing the time and energy into doing it, to view the actions and activities of potentially your ancestors. And then like his own theory even says is that the minds that are the consciousness that's within the simulation isn't even the consciousness of the ancestors themselves. It's the consciousness of the creators of it. So it's not it's not a one for one.
Yeah, it could never be the true consciousness, because that's kind of, it gets into some of those weird ideas, like what if you could choose to simulate someone else instead of yourself, or you're a simulation of, are you a simulation of yourself simulating someone else's simulation? Or it gets weird. One of the examples that I found most interesting kind of about that was these prisons, like this is real, were experimenting with virtual reality punishment for prisoners. And there's these concepts that maybe it's not so practical to have someone serve 5 years in prison for some bullshit charge. Maybe instead they just do that time in a day or a week in VR where reality is distorted and it feels like they're living that full sentence. Or they have to do like 5 years in virtual reality prison where they do all these programs and shit that are like real to them but don't happen in real life. So you could make things happen faster, cheaper, or like force people to learn morals. And there's like real work being done on those things, but there's so many cool capabilities, both positive and negative, but that's like an extreme example of like mentally enslaving people, and that's like the worst way to
that's literally an episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah
Wow, that's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, people in general have just really been calling 2020 a Black Mirror year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's almost over.
Almost over. We're almost there. Fuck, 2 more days. No, 1 more day.
Yeah. It'll just be another year of the same shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's just going to be 2020. 2021 ain't shit either. Fuck. So, of course, like we said earlier, the idea of simulation theory, it really didn't get even popularized until after the release of The Matrix. Which was one of the largest grossing movies out of all time at that point. Fucking huge, whether you like sci-fi or not. The cinematography is crazy, and it's Keanu Reeves, so you can't
just
really
fun.
go too wrong there.
And they're important, though. I don't know. It's like we saw them when we were young, and they were new, and the idea that reality wasn't the same potent aspects of simulation theory, that the world is different than we perceive it, it's what attracts so many people to both The Matrix and these weird theories, is because there's something very powerful there for sure.
Right. And especially in that time too, when the abilities of CGI and film editing was opened up a lot of possibilities for what you can show and what you can do, and the ideas that you can put into people's heads about, for suspending their disbelief. When you had old monster movies with people in rubber masks, it's hard to suspend your disbelief for that because it's obviously fake. Although, still Godzilla movie scared some people.
Yeah.
When you're able to portray something, the bold idea like that, in a way that people find convincing, you have something on your hands that, whether it just becomes a cult favorite or it becomes an actual theory that people believe is the essence of life and how and what we're living in day to day. But of course, it wasn't just The Matrix. There was a burst of movies that touched on the subject of simulation theory in some way or another, that at least, instilled a similar idea or, set the groundwork for this theory to take off. And it was all between 1997 and 2001. That was when it really was huge, between movies like Open Your Eyes and The Truman Show, Dark City, Existence. I don't know how to pronounce that one.
Extends.
Those
gas station pills.
Damn right, dog. You living your best simulation life.
It's spelled very weird.
The 13th Floor, Vanilla Sky, and even Donnie Darko have different reality-based theories that could,
for sure,
at least plant the seed in your head. So when someone comes out and they're like, releases this paper and says, what if it really is a simulation, and, points at a couple different ideas, then it starts to go like, oh, well, maybe that's something to look into. And then it's going to catch on, especially it was the golden age of the internet, expanding. And so when technology is getting blown out of the water and everyone's, able to connect with each other with the click of a button, even though they had to wait for that dial-up internet to work, it was still huge back then. So
yeah, 2001, it was getting going. Dude, that was such a weird time. Like, I haven't watched most of those. I'm familiar with a lot of them. Donnie Darko, Truman Show, of course. A couple other ones I thought of that you might have watched also were Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly. They both...
neither one of them.
Dude, you'll enjoy them. Alex Jones plays a small role in Waking Life, but Waking Life's a weird, trippy animation of a bunch of people talking about what life is.
Is Alex Jones the conspiracy theory guy?
Yeah. I listen to... So, I don't listen to him all right, so... I really
you have
like,
to explain.
Yeah, I really like listening to people I disagree with. There's so much value in it. So, like... I don't belong to any political party. I fucking hate it all. But I definitely don't agree with people like Rush Limbaugh or Alex Jones or Tucker Carlson. Fuck all those dudes. But I listen to them a lot. And I listen to mainly through podcasts that tear apart Alex Jones. I probably listen to Alex Jones like 5 to 10 hours every week. For like years, bro. Like, and it was weird. One of my uncles bought me one of Alex Jones's shirts, thinking like I was a big fan. And I was like, I was so upset. I was like, I can't believe you gave him money for this. But anyway, A Scanner Darkly is an outstanding movie, and I think I might be tripping. I feel like Keanu Reeves does something in that one too. Mm-hmm. And Waking Life is also that whole wave of movies right then. They were really into that. Nothing, everything isn't as we think it is.
And we were talking about this, between ourselves when we were putting this together. It's a lot like how, Star Wars, Star Trek, older sci-fi stuff. It people always say like, oh, it predicted, these cell phones and stuff like that. It's like, no. It planted the seed for that. It's, we probably wouldn't have built things like this, a phone, a screen that you can look into and talk to. If these people hadn't come up with this idea, like, oh, that would be a crazy way to communicate with people. If you could just, see them and look at them and talk, stuff like that, or, that it doesn't predict these theories, it creates them.
Yeah, like Inception was kind of like a more modern version of that kind of pushes those reality is different than we think it is idea.
Right, yeah.
Also, by the way, just A Scanner Darkly, I felt dumb. It is a Philip K. Dick novel by the same name that was adapted to film, and Keanu Reeves is the lead character as an animation form.
It's a flip dick?
It's a flip dick, and I knew it, but I wasn't confident. I also thought it was interesting, just while we're talking about movies, we had talked about the brothers that wrote the Matrix movie. Their concept of the Matrix movie, they later... I don't know how to say it right. They later...
They came out as trans. They both identify as women now. So it's actually the sisters that made...
yeah, and that's so fucking movies. Cool. Like, that's what...
They said that the movie was actually about, gender identity and relations. And, especially for people that were already getting on huge on the bandwagon that the Matrix is real and it's based on fact. It's like, well, actually, it was a what's the word? An allegory? It's a that's not the right word. Is that the right word?
No.
Language is hard.
Yeah,
but it's a metaphor for gender identity.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
That, whatever that personal journey can be, so many different things to so many different people, but I think it's cool that they later came out to speak about that's what the Matrix was for them.
If anything, I think it just makes the Matrix cooler. It adds such a deeper layer to it. That's like, oh, cool. It makes me want to go watch it again. Like, oh, let's look and see how that, checks out for someone that, wasn't looking through that lens, the first time around, of course.
Yeah. So these movies and media in general, it plays such a big part in like the mental energy that feeds these theories and other related theories, and how they interact and like prey on, for better or worse, but they like grow on the subconscious of people. So do you want to get us into some of these other related theories?
I would love to. So the first thing that came up, and I realized I thought about how it came up, was this time theories. So I fell into this when I was doing this research because part of the movement of people that believe in simulation theory believe that we are it's a possibility that we are the first simulations. We are and that's why they're
pre-simulation, right? That's what some of it was.
I think no. Well, some of it is that, but there's definitely a group of people that believe that we are the first series of simulations. The people that exist within the present are the first series of it. Gotcha. And that got me. It said it was related to an idea of philosophical presentism, which is a term that I had never ever heard before. So I had
mindfulness.
Yeah, I had to look into it, and I thought it was pretty interesting. But the idea is that neither the future nor the past exists. According to presentism, events and entities that are wholly past or wholly future do not exist at all. So the idea is that, the past and future are just data that you might have an idea in your head, but it's a false reality, or it's a, it's a thought that's been brainwashed into you to believe that that's true. It's only the present, only the present ever exists.
As much as I like that, I fucking hate it.
Yeah, it's like you can't do anything with that. Seems so negative, and I don't know. It's hard to get a grasp on reality, I feel, with that. And I could be wrong, but at least the way that I understand it is, it's kind of fucking crazy. There are two other theories within time that people, that they divided into. One is the opposite of presentism, which is eternalism, which is that all existence in time is equally real, always was and always will be. So the future was always the future. The past was always the past. It's not going to be changed. It's not going to be whatever. It always has existed and will always exist. It's always going to be the future and the past and the present, exactly the way that they are. Which, it sounds, that's when you say it like that, it sounds like, well, duh, of course, but it's more of the concept of linear time.
Yeah, that's like a very chronological order, normal thinking. It's very concrete.
And that's what I thought, until I also read that there's a third one. The third one is the growing block theory, which I feel like is actually more of, at least how I see time, is that the past and present exist while the future does not. The present is an objective property to be compared by like a moving light, that's a spotlight that's on the timeline. By the passage of time, more of the world comes into being. Therefore, the block universe is said to be growing. So the growing block theory is, that the past is the past has been made. The past exists. The present exists, and each moment that goes forward into time, it continues to exist. But it's not. The future hasn't been molded yet. It's not there yet. It's of course, potential to be, but until time moves on, there is no future.
For whatever reason, with this growing block theory, the block part confuses me. I don't know. Like,
so think of it just in the way that instead of just being on a timeline, it's a 3-dimensional space timeline.
That was an awesome sound.
Yep, that was me flicking my mic stand.
No, I get what you're saying, but like how you made the comparison earlier to mold growing, to me, that visual or whatever for growing block theory makes more sense. Does that make sense, or is that just like a me thing?
That's true, because it goes along with the idea that like what you do is cemented in time as your actions, whereas with the presentism, it's like that was the past is the past, this is the present. The past doesn't exist; it's always just now. The eternalism thing is like almost like a doomer theory, where it's like this is how it always is and always will be. Nothing I do can change it. It's already been fated to be this way. Where the growing block theory is more of, you're making it happen as you go along, and every action has a consequence that's not written in stone.
That shapes the structure of how the mold grows.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the growing block to me makes the most sense, but for whatever reason, these time things, like, I get very confused on how I think about them.
Yeah, I was just talking with my mom earlier about multiple universe stuff, because we were talking about doing research for this and how some of it's really similar, and the explaining multiple dimensions to someone verbally is almost impossible. You can even with like drawings and trying to physically show how it makes sense, it still is. It gets to a point where it's just concepts, and it's concepts and data, and your brain has nothing to relate it to, so it doesn't really make sense. So the way things are worded, especially, I mean, these are, I think they're as well worded as they could be, but without getting into, we don't have like scientific verbiage here to, I guess, articulate it the way that it's equally understood by everyone.
Yeah. It's very confusing. Before we roll into our next topic, can I run a couple of thoughts by you?
Please.
That I meant to write down, but all right, so one of them, this isn't even like a theory or whatever, this is just a thought. Like, do you personally get confused by memory? And I'll preface that by, for me, memory, like I've done a lot of brain damage from things, and I think a lot of it's just normal though too, like human experience, that everyone's memory is so subjective, but I find it very hard to access, and I've had my own personal things going on with that, but for whatever reason, memory is a very sad concept to me.
I 100% agree.
It's weird.
Yeah, it is. Because I also, I killed some brain cells when I was a kid. Definitely the memories that I hold from certain times of my life, I realize that I hold them because I feel like at least that I hold them because they were more the most formative, or the most I guess changing to into who I am now. but there's so much in my life where I look, you know, you could ask me like something I was doing between 14 and, you know, when I was 14 or 15, and like, I'd have to like, you know, left hand makes an L in my brain to try to figure out like, when was that? And like who, you know, what my character even was then, you know, like who,
Right.
I was friends with and who, you know, what I was into. And it's like, I don't remember those things right off the top of my head. I got to place it in time based on other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's more work than I think it should be.
It's disorienting. Like, I know I spent so much time trying to forget everything that it changed my brain, but also like unrelated to just like there's so much like I can't remember, but also like just the idea of like just the concept of memory. Like when I think about like even something I can remember really well, like someone's face at a particular moment, kind of like the Monet shit, like when his wife died, he memorized her face just right. But like when I think about the idea of that, the memory like always softly loses focus, and that makes me sad. Like when
oh yeah,
it just, I don't know, that memory stuff has always really bothered me or been like an emotional thing for me. I don't know.
I second that because I feel like Alzheimer's and dementia is one of the scariest possible things.
Yeah.
To be there but not be you, you know, without your memories and your personality. Who are you? You know, where you don't recognize your family and stuff like that. Like that's one of the scariest possible thoughts I can think of.
Yeah, that's what happened to my grandma, and
same.
Man, it's just so sad.
It's so hard to try to be, you know, because you want to be supportive and you want to try to help, but it's so much work and effort, and it's deteriorating to you and your family to try to, you know, stay on top of it. And you know, and some people I was dating a girl when I was younger whose grandma was at Alzheimer's really bad, and would ask every, you know, couple minutes if anyone was hungry, or if, you know, just random goofy stuff like that, or do we need to go to the store today? But they would yell at her, you know, and like no, cool. You just asked that. It's like, what are you doing? Now they're not just that, you know, they don't remember that they just asked you that question, but they feel that emotion. Now they're upset and they don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know. Like if I am trying to upset myself subconsciously, all I have to do is think about memory or lack thereof. But I think that's interesting because I think memory stuff is emotional for people in a lot of ways. But all right, anyway, I'm sorry. The other,
yeah.
So I had at least one. So I have a theory related to memory where I think as a survival mechanism, like when we're young, like time goes really quick, and as we get older, when we're young, it goes very slow, and as we get older, it goes quick, and I think that's a survival mechanism. There's no basis of truth that I know of to that, but I feel like it could be a thing.
Now, by that you do mean that the perception of time moves quicker?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that. I feel like
to cope with dying, you know?
Yeah. I feel like if nothing else, it's definitely, it, of course, part of it plays into like when you're older, you have more responsibilities and you have more, you know, faculties, different things in your brain that are, you know, already taking up more real estate in your mind. So I feel like it's definitely easier to say that someone would perceive time to be moving faster because there's so many more things that they have to worry about and have to think about.
And if you think of like, just because like they've already experienced so much time, that the proportion of time they're experiencing at the moment is just like sliver opposed to
the whole entire rest of their life.
Right. And I think there's something where, like, as you get older, your brain is like protecting your emotions by making you perceive time differently. So it's easier to accept leaving.
Yeah, I can ration with that. I can definitely say that has footing.
I just feel like everybody, like myself, experiencing it, but I feel like everybody, as they get older, talks about how it all went so quick, kind of thing.
Right.
And it's definitely a perception of time, not literal time, but I feel like it happens with age for a reason.
Yeah, I know that makes sense. Like you said, it's a survival instinct, of anything to help you cope.
Yeah, exactly.
With the inevitable.
All right, so last thing.
Yeah.
Fuck, where'd it go? My brain is a piece of shit. What?
Your brain's in a jar.
It's in a
the reptiles are poking it.
They're stealing my thoughts, bro. Shit. So with all these the time theories, specifically the simulation theories, also the time theories, the parts that I struggle with that make these concepts extra difficult for me is they're all kind of like eternalism. All existence and time is equally real and always was and always will be. All the theories kind of operate with the understanding like that they're all real, and then simulation theory is that it's all fake. But the part that is difficult for me is I feel like that doesn't matter. Like that what we're feeling in the moment, like our emotions are the most true aspect of our reality, and that existence and time doesn't matter. It's like more about what we're feeling.
Right. No, I 100% agree with that. It's all of this. I think almost everything that we've have outlined here, none of it matters. Yeah. It's all, when you get to it, I guess I was thinking about this earlier today, actually, for some reason. I was washing dishes and my mind wandered, and I was thinking, really the meaning of life is to ponder and search for the meaning of life. Once you were to, if you were ever to find a true meaning of being, then it's not a life anymore. You have a mission. You have a defined goal that you must reach.
Purpose.
So, when you set your own meaning for life of like, oh, this is, why I'm here. And like, this is what I want to do with my life, rather, whether you word it that way of this is my purpose, sometimes can be a little strong, but it's, that's for you and only for you. It's not, that's not relevant to anyone else. So it's all speculative and fucking meaningless. Way that someone else perceives time or perceives, the reality around them. I think that's, like you said, it doesn't hold meaning beyond what you put in, what you hold for yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
What you find comfort in.
Yeah. Nothing's real, but everything is real. It's one of those things.
Nothing and everything, including strip clubs.
Yeah. Is strip clubs and...
Strip clubs and what?
I was going to say, I really would like to have a porpoise named Purpose. Purpose the Porpoise.
Purpose the Porpoise. And strip clubs, particularly Deja Vu. See what we did there? We got there. It took us a minute, but we got there. Deja vu, not the Gentleman's Club. So deja vu is, of course, the idea that, or the feeling you get when you feel like you've done something, already, or you've been in a situation that you've already been in. Whether there's a lot of people that think it might be a dream or something like that. So the current leading theory is that when a situation resembles another similar past situation, our brain simply believes we've already done something. But if you've ever experienced deja vu, usually there's a lot of intricate details of something that, makes a little bit like, at least I feel like that might be true, but there's a lot of intricate details that make you at least question, even from a logical standpoint. I feel like, that's something that deserves some more explanation. So what I found was, scientifically speaking, that one side of the brain may receive information slightly before the other on accident. This would mean that one half of your brain would interpret the information as the other side receives it. And that means it would create the effect that something happened twice as the other side of your brain processes the same information, which I think is a fun way of looking at it too.
So cool, and the most plausible explanation I've heard.
Right.
I like that.
So simulation theorists believe they explain deja vu as a glitch in the simulation, whether it's a result of a reboot or a resetting. Something happened that wasn't supposed to, and that's why you have that. And of course, it's referenced in the Matrix, the glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah. The cat crosses your path twice.
Yeah.
Dude, oh my God. It's so dumb, though, to be like, oh, I had deja vu. It's obviously this, shitty program they wrote.
Right. Now, we've been talking a lot about multiple dimension theory, and I think it's relevant to bring up because there are a lot of similar things between the two, especially with the deja vu thing. There's a explanation with the multiple realities or the multiple timelines that that explains deja vu and how that might be affected. And the idea with deja vu with the multiple timelines idea is that, when you're, the way I heard it described was think of a radio. There are many different frequencies, but you can only tune into one. So you tune into one and you listen to it. So think about the many different frequencies as the many different timelines. You are only tuned into one, so the other ones are all happening around you at all times. You just don't notice them because you're not tuned in.
Right.
So if one of the a timeline that's near the one, the frequency that's near the one that you're tuned into kind of phases into it just a little bit, whether it's you reach for that glass of water at the same time as you do in the other, or around the similar time as this other timeline that kind of phases in together, and therefore you feel like it's happened twice. You feel it on your mind processes as the other timeline phases in, and that's how it happens twice. And I wanted to bring that up mostly because I think it's an interesting theory. I think it's a fun idea that has legs that make sense because, it's the idea of there's, frequency and there's waves, and you can explain it in a way that somewhat makes sense, especially if you understand how the world works within 10 dimensions or whatever. I think they're on a lot more now of explaining, but it gets really weird and shitty afterward.
Yeah.
But
now
I think that it makes more sense, at least, than the simulation theory, because there's no, it's a supposed, it was just a glitch, they must have turned it off and turned it back on again.
That's so fucking dumb. I don't know. But the simulation part of it, that it's just a fucking glitch. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But now, when you experience deja vu, do you believe it was deja vu? Do you believe it's just a weird brain thing, or do you believe it happened
I've had both before, where I thought that, like, well, that was, and there's, of course, the other one is that, like, the other theory is that you dreamt it, which, just because you don't believe or you don't remember your dreams doesn't mean that you didn't have them. Right. So it's a possibility too. Yeah. So I think I subscribe to that more than the fact that, or the idea that it's a simulation, or even it's a, separate dimension. I subscribe more to the idea that it either that did actually happen twice, and it was just extremely similar to this one, that it feels like it, or the one where one half of your brain pulls in information faster than the other half.
I think that's very plausible.
Yeah.
A glitch in our brain processing more than any timeline or reality, for sure.
Right.
It's weird, though. A lot of times when I experience deja vu, like, it's like the memory thing. It does upset me. Like, I feel, like, saddened by it occurring, because I feel like I know that it happened, but that I'll never remember why I know that.
Right.
Like, whether that just something's weird, whether it's just like normal memories I forgot, whether it's dreams I can't recall, whether nothing's fucking real. Like, when your brain, even if it is just a brain glitch, having that weird moment, it makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Right.
And, like, I don't know. Yeah, just kind of ignore it mostly.
Yeah. So, I mean, even within the deja vu thing, or the simulation theory stuff, even with, like, ghosts, like the idea of an apparition of seeing a thing, or you, like, heard footsteps in the other room, or you got cold or something like that. The experience can be explained, with in simulation theory by malfunction in programming, or there was, or I think would be a fun idea was if true, that the ghost was designed to be there. That's
like, so fun.
Yeah, like how you do, how you fuck up your Sims in The Sims. You do wild shit to them just to see the effect of it.
Drag and drop a ghost in there. Real
yeah,
quick
they got that ghost DLC pack. I'm gonna drop it on in there. Now your house is haunted. Good luck, dude, fucker.
That's hilarious, man. I'd fucking love that's part of it, is these ideas are so fun and, like, childish. They're like, it feels good to, like, pretend the possibilities are real. And I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
it just feels good.
Speaking of the passing of time and all these things that we've been talking about, we're already on an hour and a half, at least in our recording. It might be a little bit less after editing, whatnot. I just wanted to bring that up. I was actually surprised. I didn't think it had been that long. So we are...
No, I get what you're saying. I thought you were, like, trying to say we should end the episode.
No. Let's keep it. We got a lot more here to go for.
No, dude, that's funny, though, because if I would have thought about how long we've been recording, I wouldn't have been able to perceive it correctly, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Time, it feels like something that happens outside of myself that I'm not in tune with, that's for sure.
Especially when you're having fun.
Having fun when you're eating flies. What is that?
What is that from?
Dude, somebody that I thought was really funny would always say that quote about the frogs wrong. What is that quote?
I have no fucking idea.
Time flies when somebody else.
Are you talking about the joke that something about eating a clock because you want to see, or you want to throw? They threw a clock because they want to see how time flies.
No, it was just the time flies when you're having fun. But I was like, somebody had said it. Time's fun when you eat flies or something. I don't know. I'm lost. So the cave allegory.
Yeah, tell us about
Okay.
it.
I'm gonna have to cut out a minute of me laughing like a madman.
No, that was perfect. It was all beautiful.
So, one of my favorite examples of philosophy questioning our existence is from, and excuse me on the pronunciation, doing my best. I believe it is called the Zheng Zai, an ancient Chinese text from the 3rd century BC, in which a man dreams he is a butterfly. Upon waking up, he wonders if he is truly a man who dreamed of being a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming of being a man. And I get that's super cliche, but it's a very pretty thought.
Yeah. I can't help but picture the is this a pigeon meme?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, those are funny.
Yeah, they are.
So the allegory of the cave is I'm sorry. So that was the Zhangzai butterfly thing. And I think that's a very interesting thought. And I've heard other, different versions of that same idea of just like questioning what we are from our perspective.
Yeah.
But one of the most classic examples of this is the cave allegory. So the allegory of the cave is one of the most famous passages in the history of Western philosophy. It is a short excerpt from the beginning of Book 7 of Plato's book, The Republic. The idea is to imagine a group of prisoners who have been chained since they were children in an underground cave. Their hands, feet, and necks are chained so they are unable to move. All they can see in front of them for their entire lives is the black of the cave wall. So, in this concept, they're only able to see the wall, but from behind them is a fire that's burning. And other people come and they put on shows using the fire to make shadow puppets on the wall. And this was like their whole existence. And if that's all you ever knew, that just could become your reality.
Right.
So we see the parallels with that and simulation theory. So finally, the prisoner is able to free himself from his chains, and he sees the fire behind him, and it like burns his eyes, and he freaks out and flees the cave. And with a little time after the pain subside, he was able to see the sun itself. And when he's able to finally perceive the sun outside of the cave, he sees the truth of everything, and he begins to feel sorry for his fellow prisoners who are stuck in the cave. So he goes back in, and he tries to tell his fellow prisoners about the truth of reality, but they believe now that he's dangerous because he's come back and upset everyone's conformist opinion about their reality. So the prisoners do not want to be free because they are comfortable in their own ignorance.
Right.
And I don't know. I think visually I really liked the idea of that, and how it's such a great example of philosophically how we've questioned what is the reality of our existence for so long. Right.
I was actually thinking it's very scary how it hits so close to home. For so many of the things that I worry about, the things that actually stress me out is willful ignorance. But ignorance is bliss. And that's, so it's like there are certain things where it's like to know is to be burdened, but
for sure
it's, there are so many other things that it's not going to be such a burden that you being ignorant is the burden on the rest of us. Kind of thing.
I like that. I like that a lot. So when we were speaking earlier about all of the assumptions of simulation theory, one of the big points of that was I really like that term, how it had to be finely grained enough.
Right.
To be able to fool us. So a lot of that comes into play when we talk about computing power detail and things such as Moore's Law. And Moore's Law refers to Moore's perception that the number of transistors on a microchip doubles every 2 years. And this halves the cost of computer stuff. And this is like a real theory that like affects technology. Like we see it every 2 years.
Yeah,
shit doubles.
seriously.
It's a real fucking thing. And companies base their projections on what they can and can't do off that. Moore's Law states that we can expect the speed and capacity of our computers to increase every couple years, and we will pay less for them. So,
that's where the idea of a terabyte micro SD card used to be, unfathomable. Like you
impossible.
You'd buy brand new computers back in the day that didn't have 20 gigabytes of memory on it. In this gigantic, behemoth of a machine. That hard drive was garbage.
And every 2 years things could get twice as fast, twice as powerful until we're at those points. So it makes Bostrom's assumptions that the simulations could be finely grained enough to fool us. It makes that plausible. But I do think the assumption that Moore's Law is indefinite, that, technology, the computing power, the cost, all those things can, continue to advance at that rate where there's no plateau, and that all of that computing power, just because we have that computing power, that we could even be able to render those details finally,
right,
to be able to trick our senses. It's a lot of assumption,
and that's the plateau you spoke of. That's what's where the only way to get past that plateau, to get over that, is to move on. To excel our own selves. If we can't do it, then we need to fix us first. And then we can do it, and that's what takes us to transhumanism or posthumanism.
Yeah, I think trans and posthumanism is such a fun topic, and I love how it ties in with biohacking and bioengineering and just changing who we are.
It's a really crazy concept the first time I heard of it, but then, when I started looking at more of the examples that you had shown me, I was like, oh, well, some of those are extremely helpful for, society and people. Some of it's a little wacky and it's kind of fun, but it's, for what we're able to do now, to imagine that, if you're considering Moore's Law, then what we'll be able to do, in 10, 20 years is going to be outstanding.
Yeah.
So Moore's Law, and the need for potential computing power plays a huge role in transhumanism. It's the philosophical movement that advocates for the transformation of the human condition by developing and making widely available sophisticated technologies that are able to greatly modify or enhance human intellect and physiology. That is
cyborgs exist.
that is long term to say cyborgs exist. We are already here.
And yeah, this shit is wild, man. I think the definition of transhuman is different for a lot of people. I'm sure Bostrom has his own ideas of it, but it's basically we become the versions of ourselves after humanity is as it is currently. So to some people that could be they believe aliens are the future version of what humanity develops into,
right?
And that is what transhumanism looks like. But for a lot of people, especially the more practical people, it's using technology such as biohacking to enhance our bodies. And the very real reality is that different forms and levels of cyborgs currently exist. And the most simple example of that is just, fucking cell phones,
Right.
supercomputer in your pocket.
It's not inside of your body, but it is inside of your pocket. If you're lucky enough to be a person that wears men's jeans, because women's pants don't have big enough pockets apparently. I guess they got the back pockets. I take that back. But the fact that you can at just the tip of your fingers whenever you want to find any information you want, or take pictures of, and you can with the phone cameras now, you can take a picture and use that to search the web for things that are like it, or translate any information that you see from whatever language. And it's the power that you wield with that is the intelligence that you can gain from that is more than whole libraries had.
It's the Library of Alexandria in our pocket.
Right.
It's so fucking rad. And so, like, saying just because we have fucking computers in our pockets that we're cyborgs, like, yeah, that's totally a stretch. But it's the idea.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, something that paved the way for, it put the idea in the people's minds of like, well, fuck, what else can we do?
Yeah, and like, that's an example of something that's outside of ourselves, but there's current work being done where we're putting phone technology and a lot more powerful inside of our bodies. So we'll get into some of these examples. One of the ones that I'm the most intrigued by through my interest in body modification and biohacking stuff is people who create a sixth sense for themselves by inserting magnets in their fingertips. And these magnets allow them supposedly to perceive magnetic waves and Wi-Fi.
They're just that's so fucking bonkers.
Dude, like, they're in tune with technology.
Now, what's important is they still need the Wi-Fi password.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
But, and I've heard there's varying levels of how much perception it offers them, but regardless of how well it works, it
does.
Yeah, it's undeniable that they are literally creating a new sense, like a new way to perceive the world through technology. Right. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's so fucking cool. Another example, like, a lot of this, there's a lot of inserting and gene modification. Those are like the two big ways. So one of the other things is inserting LED lights as implants, and when like using a magnet to pass over the lights in your flesh, it illuminates your skin from the inside. That's a real fucking thing. That's so fucking cool.
I do want to take a minute just to apologize for laughing at the word inserting. Because I am a child, apparally.
Yeah, it's all inserting, and
you're like, there's a lot of inserting, and I just could not handle it. The illumination of the skin is
that's a weird one.
That's pretty bonkers. I imagine it's kick ass, but
yeah, it's supposedly it's very impractical. Like, it's not enough light to help you do anything. It's just like
fucking
trippy. It's like
if you're at a rave,
tattoo
you
ink.
are that motherfucker.
Yeah. But like the more practical example of this is the RFID chips used for GPS, geo-tracking, storing information. A lot of people have used them to store like their medical information, like for dogs or like themselves, where you can get scanned when you get to the hospital. It's not used widely enough to be like super practical, but there are people that use it as a way to lock their house when they leave. Like, they have a sensor on their door frames where when they leave, the RFID chip triggers the house door to lock and lights to turn on, those kind of things.
I know my kitty's got a microchip.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
in case she gets lost.
Yeah, if she gets lost, I got a little I got a card with a barcode on it, and I have a little little dongle thing that apparently
Mm-hmm.
can help track her down as well.
That's awesome. We see this all the time, like with like 3D printed limbs, like just prosthetic limbs, right?
Right.
That alone is like a basic, very basic form of like what science fiction would call a cyborg. But now, like, we're 3D printing these limbs and we're bioprinting and growing organs and shit. Like, you get your ear cut off, we can grow new ears. Like, that shit's currently happening.
Yeah, it's absolutely miraculous.
And it's like you can watch it. Some of the things, their organs being printed in 3D printers with genetically grown and cloned meat. Or there's other examples where you see a mouse that has your cloned ear on it.
That's fucked up. The meat thing,
Dude.
I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
I've been following a lot of that. As a person who works in the culinary industry, I am extremely excited to try lab grown meat. That's made from plant cells. It's cruelty free meat. Like that's such it's a novel concept that's completely crazy. And it's like, for the people that are vegan for the purposes of the animal cruelty, side of it, that gives them the option to have this thing. God only knows the health side effects and whatnot of it. I'm sure there's some new shit with that, but I mean, technically it shouldn't, because it's meat.
But those kind of like crazy ways of thinking about how to do things differently make me feel like way less negative about the future. Like,
right.
There's bacteria that they found can eat plastic. Like, we've found we can pull carbon monoxide back out of the air and make it into fuel. Like, there's things that, these kids will end up creating that really can change shit. I don't know. It's just cool.
The question is, can they eat plastic as quickly as we can create it?
That's going to be the problem.
As quickly as we can dump it into the ocean.
But if they have like entire landfills of plastic where we're pouring like, it all goes into a fucking hole, and we're pouring like gallons of a liquid bacteria, if it's buried for 10 years, if it'll be gone. Like,
yeah. Like,
I mean, there's
what is
so many, there's so many incredible possibilities for it. So other examples of cyborg shit, biohacking, whatever. I really like this one. It was so cool to watch. It was an art project, but it was a prosthetic skin suit that could do things like vibrate your sternum through your bones, like an imperceivable vibration that would vibrate your sternum whenever you faced true north, so you were always oriented. Some of them could also do things like inflate or glow when exposed to like noxious gases, which it's just so fucking weird. It's so cool.
Yeah. The vibrating thing, I feel like that had to, I don't know, I guess that might be that just might have been the better idea. I was trying to figure out like which came first. The idea of like using this technology to help people be, always aligned, face, the true north when they need to be. Or did it come about because they wanted a way to make their sternum vibrate from the inside, for that kink?
Yeah.
And then they realized, we can do some wild shit with it. And then
yeah. It reminds me of like the music toothbrush shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But dude, there's so many weird kink things you could do too with this shit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But the nail polish shit is kind of related to that. It's so fucking cool that you do that.
So there's a nail polish that changes color when it's exposed to drugs that are commonly used for sexual assault. So you could be in the club or whatever, and if you're worried for whatever, someone brings you a drink that you didn't ask for or whatever, you put your finger inside the drink and it can change color to show that it's got a drug in it or not.
Yeah. And that's like such like basic stuff in a way, but it's like That is such a cool way how technology can like really change us as human beings and our potential. It's just so fucking cool, man.
Right. It's a shame that we need it, but it's so cool that we can have that.
Yeah, like what if we had all of these modifications where like as we're dying, we're reprinting organs. We have upgrades of like special nail polish and like chips, and we can turn off lights and lock doors with our mind.
And condoms that change color when they're exposed to STDs.
Yeah, like for real though. Injectable blood testers that constantly relay blood results for disease, sugar levels. Night vision eye drops or contacts that let you see UV light or take pictures with your eyes. Like all this shit is like examples of what transhumanism could look like, and it's so cool. A lot of this is being done with CRISPR, which is in like its like third generation or some shit, where it's gene modification where they're able to splice in and out genetic aspects into your body, and it's being used to cure a lot of diseases. There's people using it instead of like it will become the new steroids, where they're editing in different, I forget the word because it's a weird one, but it basically, by changing your genes just barely, you can like tell your body to never stop producing muscle and get jacked, like without steroids, because you're changing your genetic structure.
That's
it happens
pretty wild.
Dude, it happens in animals as a gene mutation on accident, and that's why you'll see some of those cows that are jacked and stuff.
Yeah.
So they found a way.
You tell me he wasn't just out there in the field getting ripped,
just doing cowbells,
just fucking getting going, bruh.
But there's a guy. I think his name's Christian something, but he started injecting himself with his own homemade CRISPR modifications in one arm, and he gets ripped without like one arm starts getting bulked up without working out. Like they're realistically talking about CRISPR babies within like 2 generations, where we're completely controlling gene shades, and it's like you can do this shit in your kitchen with kits you buy fucking off the internet. It's so fucking wild. There's like dudes making glow-in-the-dark dogs and shit. We'll have trans dogism. Yeah, dude. This is shit so wild. So it's like the people super into biohacking that are on like the cutting edge of this shit, like the start of, transhumanism is here. Right. It's always been here. We're always evolving, but the technology is really exploding, and a lot of that's because things like Moore's Law, where the computing power and just innovation just has soared. It's so wild.
So this is the equivalent in time of when the Neanderthals and the Homo sapiens walked at the same time. And it was like a phasing out of one into the other.
That's interesting
to consider that if we are on the cusp of a what would be post-human society of what's the norm of the life on this planet, then this would be we're within the end days of what is human, heading towards what is beyond
in some form, or our next evolutionary stage.
And I guess it only makes sense that we, artificially evolve ourselves. We've learned to control that and regulate that with so many other species to our own advantage, that I think that's only fitting that our next evolution doesn't come so much as a over millions of years, and our next big thing is
faster.
Yeah, done by us and by control.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes the concepts of like immortality and like fountain of youth shit like within the realm of possibility, these things are approaching faster and faster. Now, here's one. I wonder if you've heard this, and I don't know how realistic, and I know this is a little bit away from simulation theory, but talking about the speed of which we evolve, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of theories like that the rate of which we as humans evolved, it's kind of out of whack with how fast other creatures evolved, that our brains evolved way too quick. Like it was evolving at a flat rate, and then all of a sudden our brains they grew so much bigger than the rate of which other things evolved, like really fast. And some scientists hypothesize that when we look back on history, when our brains started expanding so quickly, is because we developed fire and were able to eat foods and different cooked proteins that allowed our brains to grow at an exponential rate compared to other animals.
That's really interesting.
I thought you'd like that as a someone who does food stuff.
So are you saying that by that metric, that eating raw sushi is dum-dum food?
It might be, but it's so delicious. I actually just got me and my girlfriend, Sarah, we go to a sushi place for nice nights. And I got for Christmas some sushi gift certificates to
hell yeah,
get some of that sweet sushi. And I've been craving it. I'm like, we should do it tonight.
That nice vinegar rice.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us to oh shit! You deleted it. The sour cream and brain chips.
Oh yeah, I changed it.
So we were talking about how cell phones is such a simplistic example of the change to transhumanism, but there are also people that are putting cell phone technology in our brains, and
we should.
There's some really cool capabilities.
Yeah,
what?
I said, and we should talk about it.
Yeah, because this shit gets weird. So, Elon Musk has his version of this Neuralink, but there's currently versions of microchips in our brain that are working in the mainstream medical world. So, one example of this is deep brain stimulation, DBS. It is when a pacemaker implant emits a steady pulse of electricity that overrides faulty electrical patterns in the brain. It is a well-established treatment for Parkinson's disease, where the pulses regulate activity in a brain region involved in movement, thus calming tremors and other motor symptoms. Dude, those videos are wild.
Yeah.
It was emotional to watch.
It really was to see someone, feel comfortable in their own skin again after, not being able to control their own bodies is.
Yeah.
It's really wild. I think it's definitely the next. That's the biggest thing that I've heard that's, really going to make a huge impact on the way that people see integrating technology with your body. That's not a novelty thing.
Right. That's real shit that's happening now, where you literally have surgery where a microchip of sorts is implanted in your brain. And these videos, if you look up deep brain stimulation, you can see the patient with crazy tremors, and they turn on a button on their computer on a module. That chip in their brain, the pacemaker implant, starts emitting electrical pulses, and those people become completely in control again. And it's so wild and beautiful. These people are just, it's amazing.
And you can tell they feel like they just got their life back.
Yeah.
To not be under the control of this, disease.
Yeah. And so I know we've kind of gotten away from simulation theory a bit, but the fact that like brain chips exist and are currently implemented and can change us, and that as a species we're evolving, like it makes these kind of theories that are so science fiction feel much more possible.
Right.
You know,
it starts to add legs to the theory when you see how quickly our ability to process this information and our ability to grow is happening. You know, the way that we create, you know, computational ability now is nothing compared to what we could do if we modified ourselves, and we're already doing that. So
yeah. And in these chips, I'm gonna probably skip a little bit of this, but these chips, the deep brain stimulation, they're used for obsessive compulsive disorders, depression. They can be used in different areas of the brain to help with things like OCD, different neurological problems like Tourette's. Like, the capabilities are fucking amazing. And where this kind of gets connects more with simulation theory is things that people like Elon Musk have been up to. He's been working on his own brain chip. It was unveiled on a pig called Gertrude with a coin-sized computer chip in her brain to demonstrate his ambitious plans to create a working brain-to-machine interface. How I read that made me laugh because I feel like it made it sound like the pig was developing this instead of Elon Musk. But Musk says it's kind of like a Fitbit for your skull with tiny wires. And this is like, it's called Neuralink, and it's going into human trials currently. The interface could allow people with neurological conditions to control phones or computers with their minds. It could be used to help cure conditions such as dementia, Parkinson's disease, spinal cord injuries. It would allow us to potentially access the internet and have the processing power of a supercomputer in our head.
Fucking wild.
Yeah, he calls it superhuman cognition. And that's amazing. Like, you could like take pictures with your eyes. Like, there's all kinds of fucking possibilities. But as amazing as those things are, there's so many potential problems.
Right, exactly.
And like ways to control people's reality that, I don't know. It can become pretty insidious pretty fucking quick.
Right. Especially with the cameras in the eyes thing. I know people were worried about that even with the Google Glass of like,
Yeah.
you know, if everyone has this, you know, you're always on display, you're always on video. I'm like, you know, you kind of already are a little bit, but it just, it fuels that. It makes it so much worse. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Dude.
it fuels the paranoia, man.
Dude, if I meant to tell you about it earlier. There's a new movie on Netflix called Snowden about Edward Snowden, and
yeah, we were just looking at that. We might end up watching that this weekend.
Dude, definitely watch it. Parts of it are a little hacky. They had a song at the end of the credits that was ungodly awful, but the overall movie was really good. I don't know how accurate some things were, but like I've followed the Snowden story for a long time, but they illuminated a lot in this movie that was outstanding. But when you think about how like Ring doorbells, Google Glass, NSA spying on everything, brain chips by Elon Musk, it really becomes like simulation theory isn't that far-fetched, and shit like a Truman Show experience where everyone's watching you and you're in a controlled world. Yeah. Reality's not reality. It feels very possible sometimes, and I know you have some thoughts on that.
So the Truman Show thing, I feel like I call it that. I usually describe it to this experience that I had to people as my Truman Show experience, because it was the closest thing that I related it to then. So about 5 years ago, I moved to Michigan. It was the first time I ever actually moved out on my own. Like I lived in Toronto by myself after or to go to college, and but I had like 5 roommates, and it was always going to be a temporary thing. But this was the first time I'd like really moved out with like, okay, this is it. I'm like totally out of my parents' place, and
Right.
I'm going forward with life. So I was, feeling kind of vulnerable. I'm in a brand new place and I'm starting, shit from scratch. So I feel like that's what led to this that's part of what led to this becoming, what it became. Part of it was also because, my grandparents, passed the previous year in a really, kind of traumatic fashion. That was very sudden and caused us a lot of grief that we, had to deal with. And I feel like that also played a role in how this unfolded. But for probably about a year ish, give or take, I had a lot of trouble with delusionary thoughts about the reality of the situation around me. And it wasn't so much that I didn't trust the people that I cared about, but I would have a lot of thoughts that popped into my mind about, it was things that were too convenient to be real, or things that everything's going too good. It's going too easy. Like it was meant to be this way, or someone set it up to be this way, was the thought that I kept getting in my head. And of course I have, I don't have really mental health issues otherwise. So I was able to ground myself on, that of like, okay, that's wild. That's, that's a weird feeling. But I also know there's a quote that's, it's usually attributed to Kurt Cobain, but he's not the original person that said it. But it's just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. Mm-hmm. And that didn't help at all, because it's like, it's like, just because you're being paranoid, doesn't mean that, they're not going to get you. Like just because you're thinking that it's fake doesn't mean it's not, so anyways, I talked about it with, the girl I was dating at the time. So basically I moved to Michigan, and within a month of being here, I had, the apartment I wanted. I had the fucking job on the first try. I had, the fucking first place I walked into, they're like, oh my God, yes, we need you. And they were like super excited to get me there. And then,
did it feel like it was like a little sketchy?
Yeah,
like
it was just like everything's lining up like way better than it feels like it should.
And that was throwing you off a little bit.
Right. So that made me feel like, like this is almost exactly like Truman Show in this way. There's like, I didn't have to try for this. It just happened,
Now,
and like, it has nothing to do with the fact that I had been working in this industry for years and years and years, and I happen to be really proficient at what I'm good at,
So were you starting to question it at that point early on, or was it just like,
I think there were definitely some issues with, that's when it really got worse. I feel like there were some issues before I moved, where I was just in a lot of grief, and I somewhat questioning how I feel about, or at least contemplating how I feel about the afterlife. And that's when I granted myself more of a leeway of, how I view it, and rather than just when you die you're dead kind of thing. And it's part of the grieving process of me, like I miss my grandpa, so I was in a lot of questioning my own thoughts and what makes sense to me, and that was the beginning of it, of, well, what is reality? How does this work? And searching for purposes when, it doesn't change anything, to being put into a new place where I'm, a lot more vulnerable to suggestion of the mind, where, even if you're just a person that's walking alone at night, if you, are a smaller person, or you're not as strong, you're going to feel more vulnerable, and you might feel like, people are watching you even when they're not. Or, and this is true also of drugs, and, people that are intoxicated will increasingly feel more like they're being watched. And it might, you might just think it's, you might get little paranoid thoughts when you're high about, when you smoke some weed about, maybe I'm breathing too loud, or like maybe these people don't actually like me. But,
Dude,
with harder drugs, it gets a lot worse and a lot more,
sure
violent. So
I still think the cops are always watching me. I hate it. It's so dumb.
That's some shit, man. That sucks.
It's very, like, I can't drive casually anymore at all. Like, I'm always, like, so sketched out. So, like, explain how, so you're starting to, like, feel, like, tension with reality, right?
Right.
And then do these thoughts, because, like, drugs wasn't part of it,
right?
But
I was actually, I'd been sober at this point. I'd smoked weed before, but I was sober at this point for a long time. I smoked weed a little bit in Florida before I moved up, but while I was in Detroit, I didn't at all, for the longest time. And I I drink occasionally, but it wasn't, in excess by any standard. It would get worse for the next couple months as I like I said, I just got this place that I wanted. I got a job. I got at that job I met this girl that I fell head over heels in love with, that also seemed to like me. And then I just, that was another part of it. Like, I started to talk to her a bit about it, not in details, but like, hey, have you ever seen the Truman Show? Like I kind of feel like that sometimes. And she didn't really acknowledge it too much, or kind of shrugged it off as like a whatever, like, that's kind of weird. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Right. But then I got promoted at that job, and like more good shit keeps happening. And it's like, my brain didn't really know how to handle it. It was, like I said, it wasn't even like I felt like people were out to get me. It was like almost the opposite of like, they're being so kind to me so that I won't notice, or I'll be placated, and probably that was the strongest that it ever got, was like me thinking like all these good things are happening to distract me from something bad that's happening that I don't even realize, or something like that. But being in that relationship, and, I started working a lot more hours, and I just kind of got on a regular schedule up here. And I feel like just over a course of several months, it weaned off and faded. And I look back on it now and I kind of laugh, but it was a very real feeling that I had, that I experienced, that, I otherwise normally I feel like I would never experience. And we do have a long history of mental illness in my family. So it's not completely unfounded, to consider that I, hold on to some of those genes as well. And I just don't commonly exhibit them. Sorry, that's my mental illness right there, is I can't keep a train of thought. But like
how you were kind of explaining it to me, is you felt like it was more like an idea that got hold, right?
Right. It was just something that it started, and then it would just be like, it didn't permeate my thoughts. Usually it would just be like when I'm driving or something, and something would just cross my mind, like the idea of like the call of the void thing, where like you think like you're driving and you have this idea like, what if I just kind of swerve over real quick? Like, what if? And it's not a voluntary thought. It just happened. It was just there. And it's, it was frustrating. And I, would tell myself, I'm just being paranoid. That's, that's fucking crazy to think that, all of this is a big fucking play for me. How narcissistic would you have to be? And then I remember, just because you're paranoid, it doesn't mean they're not after you. And I was like, fuck. Yeah.
Dude, that gets weird though, man. When you have an idea that like disillusions you from reality, and that's what a lot of these theories, like simulation theory, are. Like, some of them are real legit theories, science shit, whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of things like flat earth, simulation theory, it's when those like ideas take hold, they like can separate you from, or like change how you perceive the world. It's very weird. Like it's really good you were able to like realize a lot of those things and stop it from becoming like problematic or whatever.
Yeah,
like bad.
I feel like I'm proud of how I handled it. I almost wish I would have talked to somebody else about it more at the time, but I feel like even within that, it might not have helped as much as it would for other people. It's one of those things, like when you're in that mindset of that, it's hard to seek help for that, because it's, you don't know who to trust then at that point, if you get really deep into it. And I wasn't that far off yet. Just, it was like more questioning and trying to figure out if I, would be that at that point, but I don't think I ever got that far off.
Yeah. You didn't steal a boat and try to sail to the end of the world.
Right. I didn't do that. I wasn't ever like, there's, trucks and helicopters following me and shit like that. It wasn't ever like that. It would, there would be weird coincidences, I think, that I would chalk up to being strange, but it wasn't, a grand scheme kind of shit.
Yeah. See, I definitely get some of the mental illness stuff, and I've had a lot of disillusionment myself with reality. Some of it for good reasons, and some of it not at all. And I understand like the feeling like you're being watched stuff. Like, I've definitely been around a lot of mentally ill people, or like people on day 3 of a meth binge where they're watching blackbirds and helicopters and shit. But like, I would be super fucked up, and I had like a DEA agent with a drug dog living like right outside my building all the time. He like knew what the fuck I was doing. So there were like reasons to be paranoid, but like I couldn't lose. Like, a lot of that shit just has stayed where I'm still like, a lot of that paranoia is real, but like the more serious delusionment things, whether it was from drugs or illness stuff, like that shit gets like fucking crazy. Like, I've watched it. It's fucked up my life, but I've watched it like ruin people's lives, where you, for what any of those reasons, start buying into a thought that becomes so real. I think it's, we've talked about it before, but like schizophrenia stuff is kind of like the classic example.
Yeah.
And it's very similar in the way where when you, like, lots of people can deal with it healthily and get through it. But if you buy into one of those ideas, like a simulation theory or a Truman Show or whatever, it just can wreck you.
Yeah.
And it's so scary.
It's literally a rabbit hole of thoughts and emotions, and if you get too far into it, there's virtually no coming back.
Yeah, those rabbit holes are like through your brain like Swiss fucking cheese.
Right.
And it just leaves you riddled. And I I was in my own crazy delusions. I never had like Truman Show stuff. I definitely believed, like, I think the biggest thing for me, really, like, I would believe all kinds of crazy shit, but most of it was, like, temporary psychosis where, like, I'd get more sober or, like, sleep for a couple days and, like, clear up. But I always, like, hardcore had the calling of the void shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I still do, and that's a more mental illness-y stuff.
Well,
but
it's a really common thing among everybody, but definitely it's exacerbated by mental illness and drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
So,
man,
what a wild thing the brain is,
dude. It's so weird. I mean, we've talked about it over the years, but I for at least 2 years, I was in love with this person that was like deeply schizophrenic and like going through active mental breaks. And it was so challenging. Honestly, though, like there are parts of like any disillusionment for whatever, there's parts of it that are beautiful. Mm-hmm. Like that a person can perceive things so differently,
right?
Like there's something magical about it. I mean, obviously way more sad and things get so fucked up, like watching someone talk to people who aren't there is a very weird thing.
Yeah, I can only imagine that.
Yeah, dude, she used to she had like an imaginary friend that was a legit real person. Like it was her other half that you've actually, this is weird, but you've actually seen him in her artwork back at school.
Yeah. Wow.
That was like a huge thing. So like that was a person that there were regular conversations with in my presence. And then when my friend, who I've always called my brother, passed away, her imaginary, I don't want to call, that sounds so demeaning. I just don't know how to say it,
for lack of a better term.
Because I would never say this person's name, but there were all names for the person. But that person, the non-existent person, would talk to my dead friend in front of me, and it was like it was like a circus, dude. It was so wild, but it was so genuinely real to the person experiencing it that there was something like magical and beautiful about it, but like so scary and weird that like our perception is so real to you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know how to even articulate what I'm trying.
No, I know exactly what you're saying is it's based on your perception, but what you're perceiving is your reality. Much like we said earlier, it's what you perceive with the five senses. That's reality to you. So if you are perceiving these things, then whether you're it's other entities or voices or visions, smells, whatever, that's real to you then. Yeah. And there's no one can tell you otherwise because you see it and you hear it and you feel it. So why wouldn't it be real?
And not to shift from this too much, but I think that's part of what bothers me about the people that are really into simulation theory is they always seem like very logical about it. Like, this makes sense. It could exist, so it does. You can't disprove it. I believe it's real. But they're never fucking genuine. Like, they really believe it. Like, the only people that really fucking are all in on that shit are like having a hard time or ill.
Right.
Like, you don't hear Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about, like, yeah, he'll say it's true.
He'll say it's likely true.
Yeah,
or there's a
but
high chance
he
of
doesn't
it.
give a fuck.
Yeah, it's not. He's not going off on the deep end because, like we said earlier, a lot of scientifically minded people. It's not that they promote it, but they it's because it's unscientific, because it's speculative. It's saying what if, and it's not a collection of data that's repetitive and observable, and so when there's data that can be tracked and predicted based on a repetition, then yeah, we have science now.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's fun, and that's why I was very excited to talk about it. I was like getting super psyched, and I'm really enjoyed exploring why the reasons why it could be possible, why we don't think it's likely.
Yeah, and why, what leads people to, believe in it so wholeheartedly, if, especially for, if you're already having, if you have a nature, personality type that's prone to, paranoid delusions, then this is going to be on par with something that you can easily get into, and all you need is the suggestion of it to go like, oh yeah, that's some shit.
Fuck,
and then you can get on, spreading that to other people and expounding on the ideas and whatnot. But
big if true. Simulation theory. So, big if true.
So you said this earlier, and this is so if we're gonna, if it's true, and where are our brains at? Are they in a vat? Are they completely simulated? Is it
the Brainvat theory?
The Brainvat theory.
I saw someone type that up. I was like, get the fuck out of
here.
Get
fucked.
I mean, like the Matrix whole thing was was basically a form of Brainvat where we're in a goopy pod being used as batteries for alien machinery or whatever.
They're after our adrenal glands. They need the adrenal glands so they can live forever.
That shit doesn't work. I've tried it.
Tried it, fucker.
Did nothing for me. You're better off just eating the liver. What? You go first. What do you? If it was real, where do you think we are, or are we even real?
If in my mind, the way I see it working most perfectly, would be that we're completely data 100%. The fact
I went the other way.
The fact that they would need the organic compound to make it work, I feel like it's too primitive in my mind for it to be real. I guess it was for it to be as real, for them to have like a simulation that's as realistic with physics. And we made a joke the other day that like if my fucking leg and my ass is falling asleep right now, like it's a completely otherwise useless part of the simulation that's unnecessary. So I don't know. It seems like if they're gonna put that much detail into the simulation, why do they need this organic compound as well?
Those psycho aliens. See, I was kind of going the other. After you started speaking, I started figuring out. I feel like, so you're feeling like pure digital.
Yeah,
it's all simulation. Maybe our brains don't even exist. And this is, if it were to be real, it's pure digital.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like for me, the pure digital is harder to wrap my mind around, but I could go full organic where that none of it is real. Maybe it's not even a simulation, but it's all like a chemical, organic, psychedelic experience.
It's like a genjutsu.
I like that.
That's a fun idea.
Yeah, like it's not, maybe there's no digital coding involved, but we're I don't even like psychedelic simulations of what we would be like if we existed, and we're all just floating in a turtle's brain in outer space, or we're just like ants. I don't know. I could see something like that. I don't know. I can understand that easier than someone, or like post-humans or transhumans, like people in the future, aliens being able to program reality to be real enough to fool us.
Now, I do like the idea, and I used to think this, I thought this was a fun idea as a kid. So the idea that like all matter is made of, the protons and neutrons and electrons, and then those things are made of the quarks and the, whatever the fuck they're called, all the extremely tiny subatomic particles and whatever. And the way that they exist, they move and they shift and they, they're constantly changing, their form and whatnot around you, but it's so unperceivable because it's so small. But like, if you think about, there's space in between them. There does exist a space in between them, yet they are bound. So, and it's not a gravitational thing, because gravity doesn't work on, that quantum level the same way that it does with macro space shit. So
right.
That's the biggest hole that I have in this idea. But the idea was that, we have, this universe full of galaxies, full of stars, full of planets, full of, solar systems around the stars. And it's like it so resembles the similar idea of the, molecular and anatomical structure of matter as we know it, that wouldn't it be wild if, our ball of dust was just a speck of a material of a particle of matter that built up this gigantic other thing, whatever whatever it is, that is so, it's like you can't see the forest through the trees. We are so, microscoped in that we cannot see what it is, because the space between the particles is so far apart for us that there's no light that shines onto it from the outside. I think it's a fun idea if nothing else. Although they did just discover an unknown source of light coming from outer space, or rather, at least it's not as dark as they thought it would be.
That's so wild.
But I used to think about that idea as a kid all the time. Like, what if we are what if our planet, our solar system, was part of the particle of, some giant's toenail?
Dude, it's like the zoom out at the end of Men in Black.
Yeah.
Where the aliens are shooting marbles in outer space. I think a lot of people can relate to something like that more than like digital for some reason.
Yeah. So if we're all up in vats, are you red pill or blue pill? Which one's which?
I don't remember, and they've both taken on different connotations now. But my answer, anytime I'm presented with two pills, is to take both of them. I always feel like that you can't go wrong. That's the proper answer.
They never talked about that, how that would work, but
I don't know. It'd get pretty weird though.
Fuck, we gonna find out today.
Up, down, and sideways.
It's like if I thought that if someone told me like, look, you can get out, if it was like, Matrix style, like you can get out and we can help you save the people that you love that are also in this. It's like, if you're telling me that like the same people that I'm interacting with here are out there, and we can, still be, together, then sure. Otherwise, like, I guess I'm gonna chill here. I got people I care about here. I've like built as fake as they may be. It's that ignorance is bliss thing, I guess.
It's a hard choice sometimes. That's for sure. Man, should we wrap up with that quote from that asshole Plato?
I brought it up. Anyway, I just did it to myself. I brought it back to, the ignorance is bliss, but known shithead Plato.
I'll let you go for it. You want it?
Like the prisoners chained in the cave, each human being perceives a physical world that is but a poor imitation of a more real world. But every so often, one of the prisoners gets free from the shackles of sense experience, turns around, and sees the light. And with that, we're going to sign off.
That's beautiful. I like it. Simple. Keep your eyes fucking open.
Wake up,
Watch
sheeple.
the aliens.
Wake the fuck up.
Dude, that's so funny. We finally got to say that.
Yep. Oh, don't worry. I plan on saying it, working it in somewhere else.
Hell yeah. I feel like this is a fun chill one. Is there anything you want to shout out before we get out of here?
Shouts out to your brother John for letting us use his music. Approaching Human on SoundCloud. That's approaching-human on SoundCloud.
It's very on topic at the moment. His music's very...
Is it dash or underscore? I think it's underscore. I think I told you it was dash last time, and it was not.
Yeah, we'll put the links.
There's going to be links.
Yeah, I'll have links to my art Instagram as well, which includes that honorable mention painting. We'll also have a link up for the deep brain stimulation, the Parkinson's stuff, because that's just... I think that was a cool thing for everybody to watch.
Seriously. Very uplifting, very cool to see. So thank you everyone for listening. And this has been us for today. This has been the Trash Cats Trash Cast. Nailed it twice in one go. Look at that. Oh man, I'm on some shit now.
We're not even going to have edits.
Right? Oh, bummer. Signing off, this is Ricky.
And Steven, thanks for listening, guys.
Meow. Remember to take both pills.
Take both pills. That's great advice because I'm a doctor.
Swallow all the pills.
Dude, I'm going to get in trouble one of these days.
Ask for more.
See ya. Dude, I feel like that was fun.
That was really good.
I feel like that sign off got squirreled away from us. But
yeah, no, that's perfect. That's beautiful. It was fun.